Let's take these beautiful words into our meditation. We allow ourselves to feel that sense of gratitude and appreciation for this moment, for all that's been shared already in these beautiful songs that have uplifted our hearts and made us come into the space, quiet contemplation. We feel that sense of presence, of oneness, of hope, of love, of joy, and of peace. We allow ourselves to feel the vibration and to experience it fully and completely with open hearts and open minds, to receive what is ours to receive in discernment and revelation, for the truths to be revealed in our experiences. And we take this open, uplifted heart into this space and rest in silence for a moment. And we say thank you. And so it is. Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is on discernment and what it means to honor the Father. And for those of you who are fathers, I want to wish you a happy Father's Day. Before Reverend Mary Ann left for her trip, she asked me to give her my talk titles and topics for several months in advance. That was quite a challenge for me, especially when I saw that I was scheduled to speak on Father's Day. This day has not always been the easiest for me to celebrate, since I had a very challenging relationship with my father. But I know that there are no accidents, and this was an opportunity for me to share a little bit more about myself and my journey, my spiritual journey, perhaps even provide an opening for expansion in consciousness. If I were to do an informal poll of those gathered, I'd probably find that some of you had a terrific relationship with your fathers, and some of you probably not so much. That brings me to the first lesson I want to share with you. No matter how good or how bad your experience of father or mother was, it's important to know that we didn't come from them. We came through them into our earthly experience, this life. And we all had lessons to learn from the experience. Did you know that you are on a journey of embodiment? That you came from Source as an aspect of the divine in expression? When did this journey begin for you? For all of us. When we were born into a family. So we all have this in common. We had a mother, we had a father, but we didn't come from them. We came through them. And that's an important perspective. Your soul, as an aspect of the divine in expression, is having a physical experience embodied as you. It was born into a body and grew up. It has a mother and a father, and it's having a human experience. And this is also true of everyone else you see before you. All of the same creator and expression, high, low, and in between. So let's contemplate that truth for a moment. All of the same creator in expression. high, low, and in between. Has everyone always showed up in your life as their highest expression? Have you? Probably not. So that gives us some perspective. I know that I always wanted a father knows best kind of father, the kind they used to portray in the TV shows. But that was not my experience. So when growing up, I was taught, like I'm sure many of you were, to honor thy father and mother as a commandment. I struggled with that teaching because my experience was far from worthy of that honor under anyone's definition. Years after leaving the home and upon the birth of my first child, my father came to me to atone for his behavior with me. This man, who had been my biggest challenge, got on his knees and asked for my forgiveness. He humbled himself in contrition for his actions, and this was quite shocking for me to witness and receive. I told him that I forgave him because the scene was surreal to me at the time, and I was supposed to, right? So that's what I did. And we never spoke of it again. But I still left unsettled in my heart and in my mind. I had experienced some horrific things, and I would have given anything for it not to have been so. But it was, and I was left wrestling with it, always seeking a spiritual understanding of the situation. And one day, it came. Well, it wasn't until many years later that I received the full understanding, and I'll get to that in a minute. This brings me to share a couple of metaphysical definitions with you first on discernment and revelation. These are important concepts to understand since so much of what we experience in this human life requires that we develop one in order to grow in our spiritual understanding and experience the other. So these are the metaphysical definitions from Truth Unity. The first one is for the word discernment. So metaphysically, this meaning is spiritual knowing, that inner spiritual faculty by which we may receive the revelations of God mind, to lay hold of with the understanding, especially that which is hidden or obscure, to apprehend the truth of being, to look through appearances, and to behold the reality of omnipresence. The second word is revelation, an unveiling, a disclosure of truth, making known that which is hidden. Now we understand the commandment to honor thy father. This was what we might call a tradition as a historic perspective. The commandment to honor thy father was Mosaic law, which was historic teaching. Yet Jesus came to shake these traditions up. Why? Because it was time to evolve in our understanding. Why should we not just accept the wisdom of the past ages as handed down in tradition as a guide to conduct? In simply following tradition, we accept our beliefs and opinions ready-made or handed down instead of thinking things through and embodying the truth and understanding of them versus just accepting them. In other words, we have to do our work to evolve and grow in our spiritual understanding, to embody the teachings as truth. This is how these divine ideas take seed within us. When we think things through for ourselves, our mind lays hold of the formless stuff of divine substance and transforms it. Through this process, which is the proper function of the mind in us, according to unity and new thought, We discern the truth of the accumulated wisdom of mankind and are enabled to discard what does not concern us or no longer serves our highest expression. We be the truth that we know, and we grow in our own spiritual understanding. So back to my story. Many years later, I had a very vivid and profound dream that truly changed me. I was walking through a sandy plowed field in Mission, Texas, where the soil is sandy, really good for growing watermelons, and my bare feet felt the soft, cool earth. I knew this place. It was the farm of my father's best friend, and in the distance was a barn. So I walked towards the barn, and it was gray and brown and very, very tall. And I opened the doors of the barn, and it was dark, cathedral-like inside. It was clean, and it had that smell of hay. And I could see the sun shining through the rafters and through the walls, and the little particles of dust floating like rays, and it just had this cathedral feel. And I stepped in and just took in all of my senses. And I really, really loved that moment. Suddenly in my dream, I heard, "Run, run, run." And I looked behind me, and there was a brigade of soldiers kind of dressed in World War II outfits running towards me. I was in a panic. I started running to the back of the barn, and the back wall fell, and they all kept running, and I ran to escape this terrible scene. Then in the middle of that, I heard, "Cut!" And then everything stopped. And all the other players that were in this dream started giving each other high fives and congratulating each other for a great scene and applauding. And then I was just kind of taken along with this crowd into this another space. And in this space, then it looked like a movie set cafeteria. And there were all these characters in this cafeteria dressed in all kinds of costumes. And I was shocked and stunned to find myself in this place. So I wandered around, and then I sat at a table, and there was a man in front of me. And he just nodded at me and smiled. And then another man came up and stood right by the table next to us. And I looked up at him. He was a young man. He didn't look familiar to me at all. But I knew he was my father. I knew that's who he was. So the man who was sitting in front of me asked me, "Have you thanked him yet?" And I looked at the man standing next to me who I thought was my father. And I was so confused. Have I thanked him yet? So I looked up and I just looked at him and I said, "Thank you." And he smiled, nodded his head, and walked away with his tray. So I woke up from that dream. I was confounded. The understanding of it did not come until much later, but eventually it did come. He had played a role in my life, and it provided me with the necessary life experiences and lessons that were part of my soul journey. What was my opportunity? What was I given to learn through? When it's all said and done, it informed my experience and my expression. It was clear to me that this experience was perfect, a soul contract, if you wish, for my highest good. This is something that I knew, but it hadn't all been fully revealed to me. We come to a new spiritual understanding. We honor the Father as source, as the first cause. the Father mind as the living principle, the absolute, the great unlimited, the source from which we came to have this human experience. All of it. All of the same creator in expression, high, low, and in between. You may think you are your body in separation from source, and you see the ones before you as object to your perspective. But this is an illusion. When we are still and allow the knowing as our experience in revelation to be revealed to us in our relationships and in all things, we open up to greater spiritual understanding. The Son is the living word, and each of us is the word in expression. When you see your life through these lenses, you are no longer a victim of life circumstances, but a hero of your own journey, of your own experiences and choices, and you reap the benefits in consciousness. After my dream and the revelation of its meaning, I no longer felt the pain or the angst or the confusion I had felt for so long. I knew we were both healed. There was no real need for forgiveness. I completely understood. When his time was done, I was able to be fully present for my Father in love up until his final hours, which was a glorious gift. So when you think of the ones who gave you the toughest lessons, perhaps we still need to forgive them for not being what we needed them to be. Are we ready, though, to discern the bigger lessons in revelation of the encounter? Because it's there. And perhaps we can discern a greater truth, that they played a role in our development, and ask ourselves, have you thanked them yet? Thank you.